A sincerely, a sincere thank you to all of you for being here on I guess it's sort of Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, or Sunday morning, depending on where you are. But we are genuinely grateful for your time, and we mean that. I wanted to start with just a brief origin story because the idea for Curiouser.AI actually came about a long time ago, back when I was at the Harvard Business School. And there was a particular class at HBS called Technology and Operations Management. Its nickname was Tom. And it was known to be the most brutal class that they really served up that first year. And it just beat the shit out of me. And when I tell you that I have never felt stupider in my life, I'm not exaggerating. I couldn't follow a single thing that this professor was talking about. And I mean, week after week, I didn't have a clue. And we came to a particular class where he was teaching us Toyota and the father and the son Toyota and the company. And in the 1930s, Toyota came up with an algorithm called the 5 Whys, which is a very simple and elegant methodology, but it's essentially just asking why over and over and over and over again until you get to the root cause or first principles of a problem. And it revolutionized manufacturing, quite frankly, on a global basis. But I had this epiphany. It was just like all of a sudden the light bulb went up. And it wasn't that I was, less intelligent than my colleagues. What it was I realized that I hadn't really learned how to think. I was smart, but I didn't know how to think. And almost everyone else in that class had learned how to think. And it's then that I realized that thinking isn't correlated directly to your IQ. Thinking and brilliance are learned crafts. We can learn them. We can practice, and we can get better at it. And I remember thinking back then, wow, can you imagine if we could create a technology that would somehow help all of us think better, more deeply, more critically, and elevate all of humanity and make everybody smarter? Why not? A couple years ago, 3 years ago, with the advent of generative AI and GPT, I realized that time had come. And that is essentially the origin story for Curiouser.AI. Purpose. We want to share our story with you all. We want to share who we are. We're looking for investment. I think you all know that. We're looking for investment on 2 paths. One path is the crowdfunding WeFunder path, which is where we're really looking to our community and you, our community, to support us and to and potentially invest in us. And the other is we're going to pursue institutional investors, angels, family office, and VC. And then the third piece is to just provide some insights on the industry that we will do our best to share with you. Lastly, if you all want to stay afterward, if anybody wants to talk about just the active investing terms, understanding what investing is all about, if there's any of you on the call that aren't familiar with it, I'm happy to stay, and we're happy to stay and talk about that as well. Now, we're not legally bound to share this with you all, but I think it's important that we do. And basically, I'm going to read this, that this statement isn't required. But the fact that many of you may be investing in a startup for the first time, we believe it's important. Investing in startups is risky. The majority of startups fail. You should only invest if you are prepared for the possibility of losing your entire investment. That's important. Everything we share today reflects what we believe to be true. our best understanding at the moment, given the information that we have, and we will always, always present in good faith, but the future is uncertain. So it's important, two things. A, it's risky. B, we will always do our best to represent everything as honestly as we possibly can. A little bit about me and our co-founder, Maori. Josh Hughes here, and she will be presenting a lot of this today. You'll get to hear from her. A little bit about me. I started this company 3 years ago. We'll talk a lot about this company in a minute. When I'm not doing this, I teach at UC Berkeley. I teach AI ethics, entrepreneurship, marketing to graduate students and undergraduate students. I love teaching. I am in the process of writing a couple of books working with Georgetown University. One book is a perspective and a vision of what the world looks like post-automation. After AI is automated, just about everything that can be measured, what does that world look like? And I happen to have a very optimistic view of what that world looks like. The second book is called The Rogue Entrepreneur, a spiritual guide for builders, misfits, and dreamers. It's sort of art of war meets Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. Prior to this, I ran innovation and marketing for the largest law firm in the world from 2015 to 2021. Did an awful lot of things on the innovation and marketing front, but one of the things that I enjoyed the most was I was able to travel around the world and speak on the topic of AI ethics. Prior to that, started another company. This was in 2008 to 2015. It was a company called Loyal3. It was a company that democratized the capital markets. It was a company that figured out a way to work with the SEC and Wall Street to distribute stock, IPO stock directly from companies going public to their customers. So we worked with companies like Virgin America, GoPro, Dave & Buster's, Square, HubSpot, and we ended up selling to a leading Wall Street bank after about 8.5 years. And if anyone's interested, the Harvard Business School wrote a case study about that project and about me that is still being taught at HBS. I think I'm going to turn it over to Maori so she can tell you a little bit about who she is. Maori.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. My background spans across like a technology space, data science, and then strategy and transformation. Started out in the technology space. So I have a bachelor's of engineering in electronics and telecommunications with a focus in robotics. And I worked, like one of my first jobs was working with a company called Avtech in India, which would do, we would build alarm systems and program them. So it was like systems programming. Very interesting, but I switched out of the technology space officially through getting an MBA at Emory. That's what brought me to the US. And I focused on strategy and data science both at that time. On the data science front, one of my first jobs was working with a BBDO, which is Omnicom Group's data division that works with and I personally worked with AT&T, Starbucks, and FedEx doing like basically econometric modeling, measuring, predictive models and measuring people's ROI on marketing spend, which was like the traditional AI track at that time before Gen AI. And I continued that track through teaching at Emory as a guest lecturer, teaching data science for one of their classes with a professor. And I did that for many years. My full-time job while I was doing that for a full decade has been with KPMG and PwC at a senior level, working with Fortune 500 companies across the US, across all industries, utilities, chemicals, telecom, healthcare. And then last couple of years, I worked with private equity companies doing the same thing, strategy and transformation, with portco companies of Blackstone, Centerbridge, Vistria. So kind of like that's like the sphere of technology, data science, and strategy and transformation. And so a lot of what we are, our product, our vision, it's really bringing all of that together. Because what we see out there today is, there's a lot of focus on the technology side, and very little focus on like actually bringing in business experience, strategy and transformation experience, and really people that have benefited and used like this whatever technology is being developed for solving actual business problems. And so that is my role, is bringing it all together through, playing the role of the chief product officer. Been doing this with Stephen for many months now, and very excited about like the future. And Stephen has had a brilliant vision that is, like that's why you're here, right? Because like he's gotten so many of us really excited for, how he sees things. And we shared that. I'm very passionate to keep working on this and get to know each of you personally, hopefully. Thank you for joining us again. Stephen, back to you.
Thank you so much. We have investors, we have advisors in the background. We raised a $400,000 safe round, and Josh Collins and David Wilmot were our first investors, and I will forever, ever, ever be grateful. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here. And Josh, in the spirit of full disclosure, is an old dear friend, and we were in the same study group at Harvard. He actually got me through Harvard. Steven Strauss is the CEO of of an AI engineering firm based out of Austin, Texas, called Kung Fu.AI, very successful company. I can't go through everybody. Jeff Modisett is an interesting guy. He was the Attorney General for the state of Indiana. He was elected Attorney General for the state of Indiana. Jeff and I have worked in two companies together. He worked for me, then I worked for him. He's also the guy that prosecuted Mike Tyson, believe it or not. He was the guy that put Mike Tyson in jail. He's a dear friend. Eduardo is a senior Amazon exec in India, in Europe, based out of Madrid. Carolyn and Hadley are our venture capital partners. So it's just, we have an extraordinary group of people that are behind us. Our vision is to basically build and deliver an end-to-end generative AI platform that is both strategic and operational, both. Designed to make us smarter, not designed to dumb us down, not designed to outsource our thinking, designed to make us smarter, designed to create jobs, not try to eliminate them. I mean, how stupid is that? And designed to elevate humanity, not try to scare us all to death. And our first use case, we're going to focus on entrepreneurs and small to medium-sized businesses for a couple of reasons that we believe are extremely important, and we'll share those in a minute. Our second use case that we'd like to get to will be education, which obviously needs a lot of help in this country. And the third use case is we would like to figure out ways that we might be able to help Gen Z. Generative AI, and we don't have time to really go through too much of this, but generative AI is absolutely broken as an industry. It really is broken as an industry, and there's just a lot of data, but these two charts are absolutely stunning. This is US Census data. This is the curve of AI being adopted by the enterprise. And just this past month or two, it's taking a nosedive. That's unbelievable. That's never happened before with a new technology in history. Companies are stopping buying generative AI. The customers are no longer buying it. This is a chart that was put together by a gentleman on X, which actually overlays NASDAQ .com bubble, pre.com. And what we're looking at today, isn't that just spooky? There's a lot we could talk about. 95% of all pilots fail. 70 to 80% of all CEOs in the S&P 500 believe they've been making mistakes and they've been misled. But the thing that pisses me off personally is this whole idea that there's going to be this bloodbath and that we're all going to get wiped out and lose our jobs. The apocalypse has been canceled. The real story that doesn't get out that you ought to need to know, and there's great studies to support this, one by Chicago, one by Yale, is that there are no net job losses to generative AI in the United States of America. What there are layoffs. There's a lot of layoffs, but the CEOs of these companies are exaggerating in order to basically get their shareholders are excited so that they can increase their stock price. But suffice it to say that there's just an awful lot of hype in this industry, a lot of hype. Why are we focusing on entrepreneurs and small businesses? Well, first of all, there's a lot of us. And not only that, there are record numbers of applications. It is conceivable that half of all Americans are going to be entrepreneurs within the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. It's an explosion. And it's kind of going under the radar, right? Nearly 1 in 4 Americans is going to start a new company within the next year. And 99.9% of all businesses are small to medium-sized businesses in this country. So this is just a gigantic market. And roughly 2/3 of all the jobs created in this country are created by these entrepreneurs and these small to medium-sized businesses. And if we can get that going, and we can use technology to catalyze that and get that going, not only are we going to all make a lot of money for ourselves and for our investors, but we're going to actually enable job creation. And so that's really a large part of why we're doing what we're doing. Reflective AI, augmentation versus automation. Traditional AI, I think you know this, all of humanity is prompting an AI. Nobody's prompting you. You tell it what to do, it does it. It completes your tasks for you. It's basically really all about speed and efficiency. We flipped a script. Alice is about asking questions. She's curious. She challenges you. She slows you down. She's a very, very different design. Mayuri, back to you.
Yes. So we just wanted to level set on the financials behind the opportunity. This is specifically talking about Alice. Like, we haven't talked about our sister or second product to Alice, which is the Looking Glass. So focusing on Alice, the target addressable market, meaning, when we think about the AI software market value, that's 50 billion per year, right? And so that's a huge projected market for AI software. But within that, you think about the small and mid-sized businesses, the people and companies that we are targeting. The proportion of that is around $20 billion. And then our, like what we're calling, our SOM, the serviceable obtainable market, would be the pie within the serviceable available market, which is about $30 to $75 million. Just looking at realistically how many entrepreneurs that we can capture in a year, certainly depending on our marketing spend and a lot of other factors, some of the things that we will continue to talk about through this presentation. But just wanted to level set on the size of the opportunity. Stephen did that through talking about like the number of entrepreneurs, but that's the translation of all those numbers into dollars. On the Alice side, I mean, a quick shout out to Marcel, who's on our team. He's our CTO. He's been working on Alice for a couple of years. A lot of this architecture has evolved over time. So this is kind of our Alice beta version architecture. We're already very excited to, launch a upgrade very soon this month, would be our official Alice, like, she'll be out of beta, she'll be Alice 1.0. But that's just the beginning, because we also, while that's happening, we're also working on the future iterations of Alice that will look really different from even Alice 1.0. So the slide, I mean, in Q&A or after, we can go through each box if there are people on the call who have very, very technical questions. But let me just talk about this more from a, how does it work from a flow and strategy perspective? Stephen laid the groundwork, right? The whole purpose of Alice is she acts as a questioning partner, a strategy partner, helps you think. So when you think about, like, what does that mean, right? Like, what does that even really actually mean? It's a process, right? Like, to get someone, like, there are times we sit with people in a conversation and you say, well, I left this conversation a better person because the way the person handled this conversation made me see things that I didn't see before. To be able to replicate that through a framework that is adaptable is actually much harder than, frankly, using like a baseline LLM that is, I mean, we all know by now, right? There are enough papers out there that talk about how LLMs work, but they're just predictive tools that will predict the next word, right? And so that is a different way of holding a conversation than a strategic conversation, right? And we get that many times when people start asking us about our technology. They're like, well, GPT has a conversation, Claude is a conversation. We have 15 friends. We like some and we don't like some. We hate talking to some family members and we love talking to others, right? So the quality of the conversation actually really matters when you're actually like thinking about how you grade an experience and, frankly, a product that is being positioned as a conversational tool. And so we're very proud of our questioning framework, though it's going through upgrades. Marcel has been working on those with Manvi support. And before Manvi, we had a different team as well. The strategic questioning framework is proprietary, evolving, and it really captures how we think about a conversation that leads to outcomes that are really hitting our goal, right? Hey, you come out of this with a problem that's solved, feeling like you have more clarity. So that's the first part. Like, it's the framework itself, which is ours, developed over a long period of time. We have the ability to switch in and out of multiple LLMs. The technology is evolving, and being able to do that quickly is actually also a moat, right? Because we are not dependent on any one provider. That's one. We have, so we can really, our core technology can leverage most of the LLMs out there. And what you leverage them for, different things, right? Like, you can leverage. So right now we leverage one LLM to, on the back end, grade conversations. So what it'll do is it'll say, what is the empathy level of the conversation, and then that data can be used to improve the conversation, right? And so we have like LLMs to grade and score conversations, and then we have the actual core LLMs that will run the actual conversation itself, right? So that's one of our moats as well. And then when you're all the things that matter when you're talking to someone, persistent memory, right? We have built-in code, a technology that stores conversations and learns user context. I mean, like, you have to have like that sort of consistency if you're truly going to have a conversation with someone that's a strategic partner that can connect the dots, right? That can remember, well, when we talked about this, this is what you said. And so now I'm using that information and helping you draw conclusions in a different context. So that kind of memory, we have developed it. We're also really working hard to improve it. There is a lot of improvement in that area for us, but it's a big focus and a goal. And the domain expertise is sort of connected back to the strategic questioning framework. Right now, it's a framework, but our future-looking goal here is to have a vector database that really captures like strategic, not just frameworks, but basically how we, both Stephen and I, but we also have our extensive advisor network, would think about like all the different clients we've worked with, all the different like outcomes we've had, and how we approach those problems. Because then when a suggestion is being made in the conversation, it's again not the generic regress to the mean suggestion or the next predicted word of an LLM. It is actually going to draw upon like through experience that is selective. It's selective experience that we say, okay, this is the experience and expertise that we want to draw our conclusions from, right? As opposed to this is the entire universe of experience and this is the average output that can come out of that. Two very different things. So that's something that we are going to be baking into the product. So those are some of our core capabilities. And the diagram you see on the right is an older version of like Alice beta that supports these core capabilities. So that's about Alice. The thing about Alice, so we launched Alice in the beta version in April. There's another slide somewhere that talks about traction. It probably is right after this or a couple of those. But no, I'm fine on that slide. But what I was saying is, I'm going to repeat those numbers there, but the traction slide will show you that we've had a great traction, meaning we've had 5,000 people on the wait list. We've had 500 people as like paid subscribers. The initial response for Alice, and this is our honest like opinion of our self-reflection, is that she does exactly what she's supposed to do. Like, okay, she's a strategy partner. And of course, we're improving interfaces and there's always improvement that needs to be made. But in terms of the actual goal, she performs. But she's the front end, right? So she's very much so helping you think better, helping you generate whatever like that you might be looking for in terms of like a business plan, etc. Which again, room for improvement there. But after that, what happens is you kind of like now an entrepreneur should be moving into an operational mode. And so, because she's not integrated to any operations, unless there is another business that, which many of our users do have multiple problems or business problems, like she kind of then, there's a need for support is what it is. Like, so she needs to be supported by a tool and integrated that's going to really take all that strategy and turn it into operations. So what does that really mean? What it means is, if any of you on the call are in any capacity an entrepreneur or worked in corporate America, that like you have to pay your bills, you have to do the QuickBooks, you have to pay your taxes, and you're doing social media, and then you have to check your engagement metrics, and if when you talk about customers, you're thinking about like sales and how many customers have I reached, and all those things are actually connected to each other. There's a direct connection between like how many, like HR, like how many people you hire or who you hire to do all those different tasks, and every one of those tasks is dependent on each other, and that's where it becomes really complex. And AI really has the opportunity to simplify that. And the way we are planning to do that is to have like individual modules that integrate into Alice to do HR, to do like revenue and cost planning, social media marketing. So that is the vision. And the way that would work is Alice would be so that's the diagram on the right. You have a user, you have Alice, and then so she's the front end, but then she's able to ping through like a master LLM, different agents that will perform tasks and collect data, provide Stripe information, provide engagement information off of LinkedIn, and then use all that to really come up with insights and say, hey, Dave, we saw that you made this post. These are the posts you made in the last week. These are the ones that were successful. And that led to, in the customer service data, customer CRM information, more people, signing up. And that led to X dollars more revenue. And that therefore, this is the implication that could also go the other way around, like, oh, you didn't do this, and therefore now you're losing money. So it's like an automated dashboard that shows you, how your company's performing, and you can use that information to then work with Alice to refine your strategy on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So truly then Alice in the Looking Glass becomes your team. And so this is really, we really believe this is revolutionary for entrepreneurs and small businesses, because it really truly is what holds entrepreneurs back from true success, right? Like, people have great ideas, but how difficult is it to be able to do all those things? It's like, you have to be in a very special place if you have experience in all of those things. Most people don't. And so they're like, oh, I have this great idea, but I can't do any of those other things. And then that's how businesses, don't take off or fail. And so this is a way to bring it all together and provide this opportunity for entrepreneurs to truly have what they need to succeed and take their business all the way. So we talked about the product modes. So these are the last 2, 3 slides we can move through fast. We talked about the domain experience. We work with multiple LLMs. We already have the persistent memory, but we are working on improving that technology. And most importantly, we have community trust, and it's trust based on like values and being like I hope, and Stephen hopes, that like that's why you guys are here, right? So that there is an element of, we really believe in this and we really are trying to do good. So that community trust, if we had to, technology aside though, if we had to say, what is our main moat, Stephen and I think we will definitely say it would be like the community trust. So that's on the product mode side. Just numbers, really, just to ground us. I mean, this is very, very directional. But if you say we have a $1 million raise on WeFunder, and 35% of that is marketing, what we're trying to say here is, just with $350,000, we could really make a big difference. And the baseline way to think about this is, right now we have no marketing spend, zero. And in spite of that, we have this community. We have, 5,000 people sign up. And just so that that's 5,000 was in a short period of time. We stopped our wait list. So it was a short period of time in which we had 5,000 people sign up. We have like 60,000 plus people on our social media platforms. All of this is with zero marketing spend. So just if we could take that and like make that $350,000, our math says that could be easily 14,000 to 15,000 customers, scaling up. And if you then just take that and multiply that with the revenue potential for Alice and the Looking Glass, we could be talking $10 million plus of annual revenue as early as maybe even 2027. So just wanted to also ground us in, the actual financial returns that are possible if we get, the support and the resources we need. So that's on the potential. The traction, I mean, this was a slide I was saying, the slide that shows that we've had 5,000 people on the wait list. The subscriber to conversion rate, I missed that, but what that is of the 500 people that paid to try our tool, 60% of that continued to leverage that in the following months.
Mary, I just want to say something here. Forgive me. that 60% number, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this industry, but that is a number that's stunning. And in fact, we didn't believe it, and we needed to see evidence, and Stripe showed us the data. But that means that people pay $5 to try Alice for 2 weeks. We don't give it away. We don't give the trial away like everyone else because it costs us money and we think there's value there. So people pay $5 for 2 weeks. Of those people that pay that $5 for that 2 week trial, 60% of those people convert to the full $25 per month subscription. By way of baseline, if you look at the numbers around GPT and Claude, they converted 1 to 2% free to $20, 1 to 2%. So that really is a stunning number, and I think a real key to our potential. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayuri.
Yes. I mean, that did surprise us and kind of,
Like, where did that come
confirmed.
from?
Yeah, it confirmed a lot of the things that we already thought of, like the product in terms of like, hey, where do we need to focus on in terms of our next spend? So that's a little bit about the traction. And then finally, I think this might be the last slide, official slide before I hand it over back to Stephen. But in case, like, if someone's wondering, like, okay, well, where does the money actually go? Obviously, at the very like base, it's our team and the product, right? And so we don't really think we need an extensive like team beyond the numbers there, like the 30% and the 35%, to really be able to expand and scale up the production of the products. So that's the number there. And then as the number scales up, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, like a lot of that proportion will shift towards marketing spend, because then it just becomes, hey, we have this product, and now the more people we can reach, certainly the more people we can convert, right? So that's a little bit of how we would spend the money. And so,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, no, that's it. So basically the whole point of the presentation, and Stephen, I know you have your closing remarks, is like, we are grateful, right? Like, just the fact that you're here, I mean, it shows us that there are people that believe in us, and we believe in you, and we're trying to like do this in a community way. And thank you for listening, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mary. We've gone from virtually no followers to almost 100,000 in just a matter of months. I've gone from virtually no followers to, I think it's 57,000 on LinkedIn. And that is a tribute to, I think, the fact that we are doing our best to represent what we believe is some honesty and some integrity in a really incredibly crazy industry. And we could go on for a long time talking about that. But in conclusion, and we'd love to get to some questions if you all want to ask some questions. The way Steve Jobs, for those of you who know me, is my hero. I've studied him, I've met him. He gave us permission to think differently. He really was the guy that, with his Think Different campaign in 1994, September 1994 was when he launched that. He really gave us permission to think differently, to empower us each to try and help us all define our own limits. But he never told us how to think differently, right? He said, you can think differently. He never told us how, because the technology didn't exist back then. Now the technology is here to help us each think differently, to help us define our own limits, to help us push the boundaries of our imagination. There is no reason why generative AI can't do that. It's not doing that now, but there's no reason it can't do that. And our hope is, our desire is, and the reason we're coming to work every day is that we can accomplish that. So with that, we will say thank you. And miracle of miracles, we have closed out 3 minutes prior to the 45 minutes that we allotted, but we are here to answer questions on any topic at all. It could be the industry, it could be the company, it could be investment ideas, concepts. So are there any questions for us?
A quick question. I beg your pardon. I'm so sorry. Where do you think your biggest gap is in terms of functionality with the system?
Mayor, you want to take that? I mean, I've got a definite response. I think Mayor and I are probably aligned on this.
So the Looking Glass platform is not even out yet, right? So now we're just talking about Alice, and I think the one, we are in the process of improving interfaces, and one of the things we were going to do was do a quick demo, because we are going to push out a modified interface as early as in the next week or two. So there's a very quick fix when it comes to the interfaces. The larger gap of that is some of the things we talked about in terms of like the memory, retention of the memory, and just continuing to improve the conversation. That's the base Alice. So like just sort of improvements in all the different areas that we already said she's doing. Now to top that off, this is the biggest change we're going to make in the future, is we are going to create outputs, like be able to create artifacts, which Alice doesn't do right now in the form that we want, where an entrepreneur could really go into the tool and say, I needed business. You still have to go through the process of onboarding, etc. Because the whole premise is, it's truly customized to you. But once you get to that point where you're onboarded and Alice has your information and you have like a relationship, like being like directly generate artifacts that are very specific, starting with vision statement, story, like the story, and then marketing, business plans, like those would be like that's our Alice 2.0 upgrade, where one of the feedback points we have gotten, and we've always known this, but we've been testing different versions of it, is that, it'd be great if like Alice can not just have these conversations, but actually generate very specific outputs and artifacts that are specifically like in the space of like starting a business, building a business, growing a business. So that would be like, if you're talking about where would we focus on Alice and the money we get, the majority of that would be going into building that functionality.
The other thing that we're looking at, which I find fascinating, is that what really, if you get down to brass tacks, what separates people successful from unsuccessful people, it's often knowing what we don't know. Knowing what we don't know is really the key. And the current batch of Gen AI is not very good at helping us know what we don't know. It basically makes us feel that we know everything, and it takes whatever it is we know and it amplifies it. Garbage in, garbage out to a large extent. And so we're actually looking at various questioning dynamics and frameworks where we could even incorporate Myers-Briggs like analytical tools, where we could actually provide insights to the user as to what their strengths are, where their blind spots might be, and then the platform can either fill in those gaps or they could hire against those gaps. So there's a lot of really interesting things we can do here to improve the probability of success for entrepreneurs. So that's also something we're looking at.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Chip Cohan, Chip.
Yes, Stephen, how are you?
Oh
It's
my
wonderful,
God.
beautiful. I
Oh
love
my
it.
God, I love you.
Having worked with you before,
Big hug.
my question to you is, to you and your team, is what's your dream to validate this, and how quickly do you think you can do that? Sort of meaning getting somebody to really getting a business or an entrepreneur to really use it properly and build a case study or something like that?
You know, I think we've actually, Chip, I think we've actually come close to, if we haven't achieved that already with just the beta, because we have hundreds of users that are paying money for this. And we get lots and lots of feedback from them and all of the different ways that they use the product. So, you know, I think that right now we could put together use cases, we could put together case studies, and we could share those. But we're already getting that feedback right now. And the other thing that's interesting, and we didn't anticipate this, the other use case that's interesting is we have some customers that are venture capital and private equity, and then we've got some PR firms. And what's interesting about that is that they have clients and or investments that are entrepreneurs. And so they're using the platform, they're using the product to actually support their ecosystem of entrepreneurs, either from an investment perspective or from a PR perspective. So, you know, I already think that we're getting that validation. And, you know, quite frankly, the product isn't where it's going to be. It's still very, we call it a beta. I see it more as an MVP right now. But yeah, we're feeling pretty good about that, to be honest with you. We're feeling pretty good about that.
Thank you. No, it's really great. I love it.
Thank you, sir. It's good to see you. Loved your wife.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please. As long as it's not a hard one. Just go easy on us.
What's the benchmark that you use to compare Alice with, you know, ChatGPT and others, right? Is it just user experience and feedback, or is there a benchmark that is that can be used to compare the responses?
That's a great question. Myra, you want to take a stab at that?
Ultimately, like, it is the success. It's about success, right? Like, when you create a benchmark, the benchmark, keeping aside what you're even benchmarking against, it is how successful you are at what you say you're going to do. So now what are we saying what we're going to do? Start there. So we are saying we're going to help businesses be successful. And so the ability to, if we truly had to set the right benchmark, we would say rate of success. Like, how successful did my platform, or, you know, this platform help you in launching your business and, you know, in operations. So if I was doing this, like, as a consultant, as a human consultant, I would say my benchmark is, you know, of like all the 100 clients I worked for, 80% of them met their revenue goals, 80% of them were able to start their business in X amount of time, right? Like, those would be the benchmarks we would go for long term. Like, that is how we visualize it. Like, our benchmark should be, did we succeed in saying what we said we were going to do for our customers? Obviously, we're like not there, neither is GPT. In fact, everybody is asking this question: what is the benchmark of generative AI? Like, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And that actually is the real question. What is the problem that ChatGPT is trying to solve, right? Can anyone actually answer that right now?
Well, no. I mean, that's why 95% of the pilots are failing. I mean, 95%. There is no measurable ROI.
And what is the ROI? Like, the only ROI that we hear is cost savings. The only ROI we hear. So when we say we never try and even claim to be better than like GPT or Claude, because we're not even competing with them. That's not even. That's not. Yeah, exactly. That's not even where we're playing, because it's not clear to me what they're playing in to begin with. What we're playing is in a space where we're trying to solve a specific problem, and our benchmarks would be, did we succeed in solving that problem for customers? And I would say that right now, that's very hard to like accomplish, like just say with GPT, because GPT is very much like so broad and trying to solve every problem that would be the true benchmark. Now, your question is what could be an immediate benchmark? I think that was your question. If that was, certainly we would say conversation quality within our space, which is that,
Yes.
like, when you talk to GPT, when you talk to Claude, there is a certain experience, and that experience, we have curated our experience to be a certain way. They have curated their experience to be a certain way. So that is sort of a short-term benchmark. But I consider that as approach, and I consider that as short-term.
Mary,
Yeah.
Okay, let me just throw something at you that I find fascinating, which is that 99% of all the activity in all of generative AI is attacking the expense side, right? So they're attacking the expense side because that's the easiest side to measure. So they're all going into these companies, and the consultants are leading the way. And they're all basically saying that if you implement this automation tool, you'll improve efficiency, you'll cut people, you'll cut costs, you'll save money. They're all attacking the expense side and looking at it as automation. It's a lousy automation tool because it's error prone, 30 to 70% error, 70%. The more complex the model, the worse you're getting. And so we're looking at it, we're not there yet. We're looking at attacking the revenue side. No one's doing that. If you really stop to think about it, nobody is introducing a generative AI product into a company and saying, we're going to help you actually grow your revenue, generate value, create value. They're all attacking the expense side. So that's another, I think, key differentiator for us. And then lastly, we built we're entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. If you look at our website and you look at a lot of our collateral, Alice is the one behind all of that. So I'd like to think that God willing, we're successful, we will be a great case study for Alice. We built a product that we wanted. We built a product that we needed, that I needed. But it's still qualitative. There's not a whole lot of quantitative there yet. Now, to be honest, a lot of anecdote.
And for our current Alice, I think the most important two benchmarks are depth of reasoning, which we have, and then the decision quality as well. Because that's what differentiates us from the OpenAI and other AIs. So
Thank
I
you,
think
Mafi.
because it's for the specific business case, then for us, then the depth of reasoning matter the most, and then the decision quality.
So that's what I meant, right? So there are a whole bunch of technical metrics on benchmarks out there, which every time, and even when DeepSeek came out, right? So there's everybody on it, trying these benchmarks and comparing, right? So that's what I see. If the differentiator is chain of thought, Socratic thinking, then I don't know if there is any benchmark out there that tests that. So that's where I was coming from, right? Can I compare, across the platforms? And then there's a whole ecosystem of freelancers who do this, test, verify, write blogs, so I mean, both from the marketing perspective as well, right? So that's where I was coming from. Is there something that you are considering?
Not yet. Not yet, but a lot of those benchmarks are manufactured, right? And manipulated. And I mean, OpenAI has been caught.
And I know,
Yeah, you know that. Yeah.
And
a lot of that's marketing. A lot of that's just marketing.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point where, like, we say, hey, we are just in a space where we're just doing our own thing, frankly. Like it's difficult, like in Manvi's answer on the technical side was obviously on the technical side of decision quality, reasoning, but that is not something that someone is even like measuring So we're in a space that no one is competing with us, and we don't see us as like how is this experience like compared to somebody else that's doing something similar? Because nobody's even positioning them as trying to solve this problem. And so, yeah, we're just flying a little bit here, unique in our own universe, which we think is the future. But it's a great question.
And we really do. I mean, this is what we're doing, I guess, is usually referred to as augmentation versus automation, right? That's sort of the terminology the industry uses. And no one that I'm aware of is building or thinking about augmentation, generative AI right now. I think Mira Murati maybe thinking machines. I don't know if Safe Intelligence is. Apple theoretically may be doing some of that right now, Tim Cook. But the massive, the Anthropics and the OpenAIs and those guys, they're not thinking about this at all, at all. They couldn't get this in focus for whatever reasons. And it seems kind of obvious.
Good question. Is anybody else that we can help clarify?
We'll be doing this again next Thursday. If anybody's interested in joining us, and we haven't gone public on WeFunder yet. It's still sort of private. It's our community only invite, community only. That'll probably happen in a week or two. I'm not allowed to cite numbers, and this is being recorded to make certain I don't. They already made sure that I behave, but things are going very well so far. Yeah. How'd I do, Maori? Did I break any laws?
Great.
Thank you guys very much. That was great.
Thanks. Cheers, Chip.
Thank you.
That it?
That's it. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you, people.